welcome back. It's
Welcome.
John and Joe. We're here.
I'm John. This is Joe.
Every time.
Just for clarification.
Yes. John with his bushy eyebrows.
Hey, come on. Are they bad?
Yeah. I did I not cut him the last time?
No.
That's my
I need
fault.
to talk to my stylist.
Yeah.
I almost said barber. That's not right.
Mm.
I'd be in
Well,
trouble.
there are women barbers, so it's okay.
Are they still called barbers?
Yeah.
Not like barbarists?
Well, like a man that's a cosmetologist, you wouldn't call him not a stylist.
Fair enough.
So.
I don't know anybody like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, today we're on part 2 of Daring Greatly.
Mm-hmm.
This book right here. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be there. I'm not doing that.
But you could.
That doesn't mean I'm going to.
You're that talented.
Yes. Okay. We're ready. We're in this.
Yes.
I'm still digesting work mode here, so
Yes.
give me a few minutes to get
Take
into
some
this.
deep breaths. It always helps.
I am your father. Yes.
Oh, some Darth Vader.
Yeah,
breath.
Darth Vader.
As long as you're breathing, we'll be okay. But we are jumping into shame. We kind of left off right before that the last time. And really, Brene Brown is a shame researcher. So a lot of her book is about shame. So
Yeah.
the fact that we didn't even get to it last time goes to show you like how much knowledge is in this book. It's so good. It was kind of difficult to actually pinpoint on what we should talk about. But we're jumping in here. Shame does not like to be called out. It does. It likes silence. So when you speak truth to shame, it begins to wither away. And I love that because it's truth. And it loses its power once you speak truth to it. You have anything to that?
Yeah. So it just goes into, and it's hard for me to remember if we talked about this on the last podcast or not,
Okay.
but it just reminds me again of how much isolation, like how bad it is. And it came up in our meeting today that just how hard that is for us, because as humans, we said that in the last episode, we're hardwired for that connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And shame and the prince of this world, one of the biggest goals that it has is to isolate us and make us feel that we're alone. And it's not just to make us feel that we're alone, it's because it's the opposite of our design.
Right.
And it doesn't fulfill what we're here to do. And shame is the same way. Shame has a tendency to say that you'll never do this. This can never happen. This happens every time. You always do this. And every time those statements are made or those thoughts go through your head, it's just like slowly pulled away from, well, this person doesn't do that, or this person or that person or whatever. And it's not about any of that. But that shameful mindset just continually pulls us away and into silence to where we just don't want to say anything.
Yes. Yeah. And there was a study that was done. I'm not going to remember the name of the person that did the study, but he talked, and I think it was actually specifically women that had been raped or incest, and just they did a study on them. And into older age, they saw the difference between the women that spoke about what had happened to them, to their traumatic experience, compared to the ones that didn't talk about it at all. And the ones that didn't had more frequent doctor's appointments, more hormone irregulation. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay. But the ones that did talk about it had fewer doctor's visits, and just were able to work, just
work through it.
Yeah, to work, because they, by talking about it, gave the opportunity to work through it. But
yeah, because I think it's your body, and maybe it's a rabbit trail, but shame causes you to isolate and withdraw and think that you're the only one. And that when you get stuck in that mindset, you don't voice things that are real to you. When you don't voice it, hey, this is, even as a husband and wife, if we don't voice, hey, this is really, really important to me, what I'll inevitably find is that I'm carrying that, I mean, you can visually see it on some people, like that they're really holding in and not voicing that out. And whether it's because of shame or there could be other reasons too, but shame is a huge part of that, and they're not voicing it. And when you don't do that, you're causing conflict Like, that doesn't go away. You're just causing the conflict to be only inside of you now at that point. It's still there.
Yeah. And your body keeps the score. So
Yeah.
it will come out eventually.
We
Right.
should do that book. That's a 14-hour book.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Have you gone all the way through that yet?
No.
Put you on record. All right.
No.
I don't think I have either.
All right. There's a quick quote that she says.
Doesn't she just look beautiful today? Look at this. Beautiful curly hair.
Thank you.
Beautiful new top. I'm
Boots.
just enjoying being here.
Boots with
Without fur.
that
There's
are
no
from
fur
John.
on them.
But I feel like I need to let you know something. My socks have little gnomes on them.
Are they Christmas socks?
They're Christmas socks.
You're wearing Christmas socks?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yep. All right. So she has this
Way to
quote.
be vulnerable.
Yeah. I have no shame on this one. They're cute and comfortable.
Good. We're making progress, folks.
Yes. This book works. Okay. Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness, we will discover the infinite power of the light, of our light. So, you know, and I can relate with this so much, as I never thought I was brave enough or worth it or, you know, strong enough to look into my past and deal with it and share it. But when I did, that's where I saw and heard from people for the first time, like, wow, you were so strong. And when I heard it, and it was like, I believed it because I had been alone, like what you shared, you know, that hole just got darker and darker and darker. But once I shared I saw light. And yeah, so I love that statement that you put. I don't know who the quote was from.
Yeah. There's a certain power that comes from the ability to not avoid the darkness, but also not let it shame you and not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be afraid of being in the dark. It was something that we all had to go through as a kid, that it's the fear of the unknown or what's out there, or we don't know. And at some point, you know, whether it's that silly illustration or the real illustration of that there is darkness out there, and that, you know, maybe you're never going to get over it, or you're always going to deal with this, and you let that darkness just, and then you try to wall it off in your mind and pretend that that darkness doesn't exist. But the power that comes from when you sit in that darkness and you feel it, you recognize it, and you realize, oh, there's light, and this darkness has no power over me, actually. It only has the power over me that I give it. Yeah. And when you work through that, and I've seen, and I personally have been in spots where I've avoided sitting in the darkness and sitting through that really hard time or the real deep, dark times, and we have avoided it, you know, but it still existed and it was still there. But sitting through it and recognizing that, anyway, that the light's going to pull you out. I know you're ready to go on. We got to go fast on this, but I could talk a while in the darkness there.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
You know, our last podcast, we talked a lot about vulnerability, and another thing that keeps you from being vulnerable is shame. And that was just a quick little thing. I want to keep going, but like, she goes into a little bit of owning your story, which I kind of love, because we actually talked about that in our because we did the story paradox.
Yeah.
So it was cool that we're bringing it to this as well. But so when we have conflict that occurs, there's like 3 reactions that Brene Brown, like, she kind of pinned it down to 3 different reactions that we all have. Is and what they are is their disconnection from that we are using to deal with the shame that's coming. So that conflict where shame wants to pop out, these are our disconnections. We either go away, we go towards, or against. And away was we hide or be quiet, and that's not to call you out or anything, but that's
Do it.
that is John. He definitely is a withdrawer.
I'll pull away, isolate, and say I got to figure out how to get over this myself or whatever. Yeah.
And I do have a little bit of that as well. And the second one was towards, and that's, you know, to keep the peace, and that's me. You know, I'm a recovering people pleaser. And really what that is just the fear of man. And then the third was, you know, against, and that's like to gain power over others, you know. So if I'm feeling shame about this, it's because I have a problem over it. So I'm going to pick on that person or make fun of that person, you know, gaining power over it. There's probably other ways.
Yeah, I mean, very narcissistic tendencies, you know, to control the situation, to manipulate, right? but at the core of that is maybe some shame that someone's really experiencing. Yeah.
Yes. And what I love is Brene, right after that, goes into the ninja gremlin moves. So she talks about how that little voice or whatever it is that comes in and says, oh, I am not enough and I can't do that or I fail every time. She calls them gremlins. And so she has the
Minja. I just had to say it wrong. I had to say a minja,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Grace, our oldest, for some reason has a trouble
Every
with
time.
N. So it's not ninja, it's a minja.
Yeah. And so I'm always like, Grace, ninja. then she gets it.
Minja.
Oh, she just did that with the word and it was great. Spaghetti. I'm like, she says spaghetti. So I'm like, spaghetti. And she goes, spaghetti. She still says it wrong. I can't even do it, but it was just so cute.
Okay, sidetrack. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Back to the minjas.
All right. So, okay, practicing courage and reaching out. That's like the opposite of withdrawing and hiding. And I kind of wanted to put this on you right now because that is your natural tendency. Like to practice, being brave, reaching out. What does that look like for you?
So, yeah, because my natural
Yeah.
tendency is to not do that. So, I think it's been a journey, so I've just had to learn that by me withdrawing, I only got so far because what it ended up doing is it ended up putting this. So I just read this in another book, Mr. Atlas, it's that statue of the guy that has the world on his back and his arms behind him, and he's bearing the world, he's bearing everything. And as men, we like to, I know I'm jumping ahead some too, but that's a natural thing for us that we have to do all that. And so there was a shame that went along with the fact that, well, if you're letting this get to you or if you're letting that get to you, well, that's not what men do. Well, says who? Where did that come from, right? But regardless, that's jumping back and ahead. But so what I learned is that just only gets me so far, and really because it's not real. Like at the end of the day, if something's difficult or if something makes me feel an emotion or this or that, like I can sit there and deny that emotion all day. But at the end of the day, if you do something that hurts me, it doesn't change the fact that it hurt. And it doesn't mean that you did it on purpose. It doesn't mean I have to take it personal. It just means like, wow, that sucked. Like I'm not faulting you. Like I could not fault you. I could do whatever. But what I used to do is just internalize that, and that just stays there. It doesn't go away. Now I have this conflict that inside of me and my body is saying, hey, there's a problem here. But verbally, and what I'm saying is, no, everything's okay. It's going to be okay.
And
Nothing's wrong.
That just stopped any growth in our
You're not
marriage
growing
right there.
because it's not real. And you may see some little glimmers of hope and growth and what you think is growth, but it's not really. You're building it on top of things that aren't really true and aren't really you, right?
That's good. All right, the next one she has is to talk to yourself the way that you talk to someone that you love. And this was something that was good for me because, I do want to keep everyone happy around me. But when I'm talking to myself, I talk very negative to myself. Yeah. So what that looks like for me is I've started doing this thing. I was listening to a song and it's, Jireh is the name of the song. And it talks about how he is enough.
Shout out Maverick City.
Yes, he's enough. So I am enough. So when I find myself in a situation where I start thinking little of myself, I think he is enough. So I am enough. And just not being so harsh on me. That definitely helps me. And
what do you think are some things that are attributed to that? Because that's your natural thing, to be really difficult, and probably many others, maybe all of us. Like, what do you think are some things that led to that growing up? Maybe something that happened, maybe not. But I'm just curious if you have any insight on why you feel like that.
Yeah, no, like I have older siblings, so I would see them get my mom or I was gonna say mom or dad, but dad hardly ever got riled up. But it'd get my mom riled up, and they'd get in trouble. And I wouldn't want to do that, so I would be good, so I wouldn't get in trouble.
So real, like people pleasing, you know,
Oh yeah, definitely
doing
people-pleasing.
something to try and get a response or a certain
Yeah.
action from somebody else,
Yeah.
right?
Just like I want to see you happy all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I wanted to see my mom happy, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to make her upset. But that's a heavy, heavy load, especially with you.
Yeah, and you're not.
Like, I can't put
yeah.
all that on my shoulders
No.
to keep you happy, and neither can
It's not on you,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Correct. That has been a big learning. Good point.
Huge. All right, and then another one was the owning your story. You know, if you own your story, you get to write the ending. I love that statement, because like the story that we have in our minds, I'm trying to think of a specific scenario, but if it's something between you and work, and this person just comes up and I love Brene Brown's story, so I'm just going to use this one.
Do it.
But she had gotten a pretty, not a great grade on a paper, and she came up with this whole story in her head that like this was a great I'm not going to say it the way she did, but she put in a lot into this paper. She had high hopes. And then she got this bad grade, and she was going to go in there and just really.
She was ready to fight.
Yeah, she was ready to fight.
Yeah.
And she goes in there, and then the teacher ends up having this completely different.
Totally disarmed her.
Yeah,
in the
totally
conversation.
disarmed
Yeah.
her. Because she had that story written out in her head.
And she thought the teacher was like, "Oh, the story she told herself, right, was that this paper was trash.
Yes.
Wasn't good. It was terrible. I can't believe you did this." And then when she came in, don't quote me on this, read the book, but it was more so like you did, like the teacher said, like you did a phenomenal job. Like there was this one area, and she used, I think, a writing term or something, where I think you could use some improvement, and I would love to sit down and help you if you need help with that, and offered her help. And she just talks about how like completely disarmed she was in that moment, anyway, and how wrong the story was that she told herself on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. So own your story. Was
Own
there
it.
anything else?
Be the hero. Be the hero of your story, right? That's what I like to say. Joe Rogan actually says that, but it's your story. You get to tell yourself whatever happens. You get to tell yourself what this facts are facts. There's a time and a date and the facts of what actually happened, but the rest of it is the narrative that you create around it. And that's what you get to create in your own head. And so often we create heroes in everybody else around us, and then we look at ourselves like, oh, well, you're not this person, or you're not that person, and we're basing it off of their social media presence, which is the highlight reel of people's lives. I know, rabbit trail, but that's the story that we're telling ourselves, So anyway, be the hero. Like, be the person that you want to believe in. Be the best. Believe the best about yourself. I try to believe the best in everybody. If someone tells me they're going to do something, I believe it. Yeah. Some people say people are going to take advantage of you. No, they're not, because I believe that's what's going to happen. Like, you're not going to take advantage of me if I give it to you. You can't do that. Anyway, go ahead.
That's good, babe. All right, so we're going to go a little deeper here. We're going to start talking about women and men and shame in their life. Like, I think we automatically go to shame as to women, because it is a little more talked in that realm. But Brene had gotten approached by a man and was challenged to look into it, and she did. And her findings were quite amazing. And before we go deeper into that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into women real quick.
That was a cue for me not to say anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So women. So feministic.
Femininity.
There's a song to that.
You said that better than I did.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
There's a lot of shame around that, because we all have this view of a woman as this small, petite, kind of quiet, maybe smart, but doesn't really tell people she's smart. Amazing cook, amazing mother, never yells. Like, we have this vision somehow. And then whenever we don't meet up to that, even slightly, this is automatic shame that we're not a good wife, we're not a good mother. And, this is crazy. This just happened Wednesday. We were in like a life group setting called Reengage. And there's woman on this screen is telling her testimony. And this wasn't really necessarily all about the marriage part, but she just spoke on that she didn't take to mothering right away. And I was like, oh, I can relate. I've never heard anyone actually say that.
Yeah.
And because I always just thought, oh, this is what I'm here for. I'm supposed to love this. I'm just supposed to keep, creating more babies, and but I'm just didn't take to it as like what I've seen other women do, and I thought I was wrong or messed up or bad because of it, and that's so far from the truth.
Yeah.
I was made different to anybody else, and because I'm slightly different doesn't make me bad, and doesn't create a situation where I need to put shame on myself.
It doesn't define you.
Right, doesn't define me. And another thing, like, we see these strong, powerful women out there, and they are setting really good role models out there. Like, there are really good ones, but we have this vision of these women like they do it all. All right, let me be honest with you. They don't do it all. A lot of those women, they don't do like their own laundry. They don't do that. They don't cook all the time. They have nannies, and that's not bad. That's great. Like, I personally, we have someone help me clean and do my laundry.
Yeah.
Because I knew, and John helped me find this, that I don't find any fulfillment in my life when I do laundry.
Yeah.
And when I cook, or I really love food. I just really don't like to cook, or and clean a house. Like, I don't like, it's cool when it's all done, but I don't find that deep fulfillment. But I do find fulfillment when I'm playing with my children and having fun.
Yeah.
Or when I'm at the office with my husband and learning more about his work life, which is so important to me. That's where I find fulfillment. So if I was tied down to all this stuff at the house, when I was tied down to all that stuff at the house, there was just so much. At the end of the day, John would come home and I'm like, oh, I did this, I had to do this. But on the end of the day, when we're actually together, working together, we don't really work together, but we're in the workspace together. I come home and I'm like pumped about life and I want to do more.
Yeah.
So like, it's just, don't feel like you have to do it all. It's because you weren't made to be this perfect porcelain little thing that does everything right. God gave you a specific gift, and I'm finding that gift, and luckily I have a partner that is just wanting to feed into that gift. I'm really thankful for that. So okay, I'll get off my soapbox, and
I'm just enjoying it. You're speaking some truth.
No, it's just
and some real. It was real.
No, thanks.
Seriously, the people need to hear that. Look, none of us, even men, so I'll highlight the men's part, because there's a lot here. Men, you deal with shame too, and I don't care if you want to admit it or not, but you do, because we have an image that we're supposed to do everything. We're supposed to provide everything. We're never supposed to complain. We're just supposed to go out and do, and we don't show emotion. We don't show that anything rocks us, and that's just not true. Like, take the Superman cape off, because it's choking you, and it's choking you out of who you really are. I just read that in a book, because it's not real. Look, each of us, you, me, we are created with very specific gifts from our Heavenly Father, period. And that means that if we were given specific gifts, there are certain part of our lives that we're just not good at.
Like cooking.
And that's okay, because it's not why we were created.
Right.
And we could shame ourselves all day, and many of us do, that, well, I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm not in front of people speaking, or I'm not over here, or I'm not doing everything. Like, but that's the story you're telling yourself. That's the shame you're putting on yourself. It's not stepping into who you were and why you were created. And so, men, I challenge you, and I did it on another podcast recently, like, just be real. If you're struggling with something, then just tell your wife. It's not that hard. One of the worst things I believe that we can do as men is pretend that we have it all together, and that we have all the answers, and that everything's under control. Because what has happened in our society is we've grown up under that, and we've believed that, and now we shame ourselves when we don't, when inside we're like, I don't have an answer for this. Like, I have no idea. But we pretend that we do. And so what ends up happening is we have men in a society of men who don't talk up about real issues and real problems that exist, because we all pretend that we know what's going on, and we all pretend that we have the answer and that everything's going to be okay, when in reality we're looking inside and saying something just ain't checking out. Something's not making sense here. Hey, there's red flags going off, but we don't say that because we're supposed to have everything under control, and it's not real. And you think about your kids, you're setting them up for failure. Be real to them. If you don't have the answer, if something hurts, if something's painful, let your kids see you cry. It's okay. Like, are you going to tell me they're not going to experience, I'm getting on a soapbox too, but they're going to experience pain in their life. They're going to fall. I was the first one. We've had this conversation when our kids fell or did something. Like, I didn't want to always be there to catch them every time, because someone's not always there to catch you when you fall. Sometimes you got to feel and you got to experience the pain, and you got to pick yourself up and be like, well, that was dumb. I'm not going to do that again. Not have someone catch you every single time and put you in a little bubble, right? Anyway, soapbox. Men, shame exists. Stop pretending that it doesn't, and be real, and do the real work that's between the ears.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so coming from a woman view of it, so like we ask for our men to be vulnerable with us, and we even beg and plead, and but when the truth, but the truth is that most women can't stomach it. So, and when she was talking about this kind of hit me in the gut as well, because that was me. Like, I begged and plead for you, John, just tell me what's going on with your life, what's happening. And you were very, withdrawed from it because you knew, truthfully at the time of my life, I did not care that much of what he was doing, but I did love him. So I wanted to know, if he was upset, overwhelmed, babe, tell me what's going on, what's happening, people pleaser, let me help in some way. And there were times that you did tell me what was going on, and I gave you a look. And this is a look that a lot of women give their men when they actually find out what is happening inside their spouse, and it's a look of, whoa, scared,
like, I didn't sign
fear.
up for this. Like, what?
I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, because whoa, I just thought you had it together.
Yeah.
And I know when I was listening to this that's a look that I've given you, and I kind of, if you don't mind,
go for it.
I kind of want to know, how did that make you really feel in those moments?
Well, what happens is it perpetuates it, right? So the cycle happens when as a man, because I think a lot of men go through this, that even as tough as we try to be, and I know some really tough men who go to work and they work really, really hard jobs, and whether they pretend to have it all together or not, like they put up the man. That is what they're, a man. And inevitably we get to the point where we can't maintain that forever. It will break down. I don't care if we call it a weak moment or whatever, there will be a time, especially if there's a significant other involved, where that man breaks down and is like, I have no idea what's going on, or this really rocked me, or I'm really struggling with this. And I'm not saying that every man has done that. I would say that most men have probably done that. And when a man feels that his wife is in shock or can't handle it, it automatically tells him, see, that's why you need to handle your own stuff.
Right.
And it perpetuates the shame. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what perpetuates the cycle and the way of thinking. And you didn't ask me this, but I didn't. Probably 99% of the time, the male has not needed the wife to say the answer. Like, hey, this is the answer, bozo, right?
Yeah.
No, what was important to me is to know that, hey, you were here. Mm-hmm. I don't have an answer for you, but I'm here with you. Yeah. You text me something like that. You text me something alongside that today, and you were like, look, I'm in this with you. And that's what I heard. It wasn't that, but that's what I heard from it. It was like, look, we're in this together. Yeah. It was something that's very stressful for me on a continual basis, and you don't have the answer for it. You're not going to get the answer for it. It's not your role. Mm-hmm. But all you had to do was say, look, I'm in this. I'm conscious of this. I'm aware of it. And that's exactly what I heard in that moment. I'm conscious. I'm aware of it, and I'm here with you. Like, let's do this together.
Yeah, we're meant to bear it together. Yeah. And I was just thankful that you were sharing something with me, because that was allowing me to have that opportunity to bear it with you instead of just holding it all on your own.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of want to jump into real quick was, you know, the guy, he finally opens up to his, you know, a spouse and sees that look and think, oh, well, that's never going to happen again because I don't want to see that again. But so like, think about it. What is something you could do to not have that happen again? And then I believe what that is having a weekly conversation, at least with your spouse, about what is happening in your work life. And that's something that John and I do. We have a weekly date night. It's Friday night. We're going after this. That's why I look this way. I do not normally look this way.
She always does. She's amazing.
This morning, my hair was in a ponytail and a baseball cap.
And it was still beautiful.
So it's just like, because then when there is actual bad news that you have to, that you don't have to, but you choose to share with your wife, it's not this big blowout. How did this get out of control? No, because you've had that vulnerable talk with her already and you've led up to it. You know, I've heard so much growing up that for men, like work life is at home and home life is at work life is at work, home life is at home, and there's nothing getting in between.
Yeah, don't talk about, right? How many times do we hear that? Don't talk about work. Don't bring up work in the or date night. Don't bring up work at date night. And it's like, oh, well, this consists of like 60% of my life. You just took away 60% of my life and I can't talk about it.
It's probably more than 60, but yeah. Like,
I was being like nice.
No, but see, you're an entrepreneur. It may be different for another man.
Truth.
But so that just goes to show you, like, John being an entrepreneur and then me, a stay-at-home mom, where I wanted to talk about things that weren't about work. That's all of John's life. So you can imagine how our date nights used to be. But when huge growth
on the phones, right?
On our phones, we literally didn't have anything to say to each other. And then finally we came to just a God-given trial and that help us get closer and got us into each other's businesses. And I started
all in.
I started listening to business books. So when he's talking about business, I had an actual idea of what he was talking about. And I have to say this because this is so, it's like, God is amazing, right? Our first date night, 2019, that's when we started. Every week we're having a date night. And our first date night, we spent 3 hours talking at the restaurant. We've never done that. And we had been married for 7 years?
It was amazing.
Like, it was, and John did most of the talking.
Truth.
That's amazing. Okay.
I'm a pretty talkative guy.
That's funny. But okay, I don't even, that was quite the rabbit trail.
We got to jump to something.
Okay, so
we got to end it.
All right. I love this. We need to end it on this.
Okay.
But there's parenting.
Hurry.
We're going to have to do parenting in another book. So, because Brene Brown has a parenting book. So we'll get to it then.
Truth.
So Velveteen Rabbit, there's the part where the rabbit is talking to the rocking horse, and the rocking horse says a whole bunch of stuff, but one sentence that just was
classic,
amazing says, "Once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to those who don't understand." And, you know, the horse is talking about how, like, you know, by the time that you're real, like, you lose hair, you lose buttons, but you are real. For people, we may have gone through like divorce or bankruptcy, you know, like any like really hard stuff. But when you become real, you're not ugly. But the people that do see you as that, and the ones that don't understand, which is I think like this amazing tool to use when you're trying to get good people around you, to get a good team. Like when you are real with them and you show them even the darker sides of you, but you're real. If they shy away from that and just kind of back away and then slowly weed their way out of the group, that was a great sign that is not the person that you want close to you. Because they just don't understand vulnerability and getting over shame.
I love that. You spoke that really eloquently, and I love that part of that story because to be honest and transparent, that's what I've tried to. In the last 4 years of my life, in the work environment that I've been, that's what I've tried to produce, because I know that if I go full in, all in, tell everybody the ugly. In fact, somebody today I sat down with in our organization and I told him a lot of our story, and it was deep and it was heavy, and which was crazy because 30 seconds later, I don't kid you not, I didn't even tell you this yet. You text me what you text me today. It was amazing. And anyway, but the point is I try to live that out, because I know that if I live full out vulnerability and I say, here it is, here's what it, like one or two things are going to happen. Either it's going to be reciprocated and people are going to be like, wow. And immediately what they're going to do is look inward and be like, man, that was really courageous. Like, I haven't said this. I'm dealing with this. And that's not on me. That's their work that they have to do.
Right.
But what I can do is I can provide the opportunity to say, look, I'm all out. Like, what do you want to know? It's the Eminem, the 8 Mile rap, where he gets up the front. Have we ever watched 8 Mile together? Oh my word, we got to do that. Okay, so the movie about Eminem's come up, and he gets into a rap battle. I can't believe I'm just telling you this for the first time. He gets into a rap battle, one of the last ones, and the guy's really, really good, and nobody really knows him yet. Okay. And he gets up. He has to go first, and the guy has to answer back.
Right. He
gets up, and he completely bashes himself.
Oh.
He completely speaks exactly truth. So he has a friend. This is funny. If you know Eminem, you're going to really laugh. If you don't, you're going to think I'm an idiot. He has a best friend whose name is Cheddar Bob. And Cheddar Bob shot himself in his leg. Okay. He just wasn't the brightest guy. No offense, Cheddar Bob. If you're still alive, I don't know. And so in his rap, one of the things that he said was, and yes, I do have a best friend whose name's Cheddar Bob who shot himself or whatever. Like, and the next guy gets up to answer him and he had nothing. Because Eminem literally just used everything against him that he could. And the guy choked and had nothing to say against Eminem, because Eminem got up and just toasted him, because he toasted himself and he was just real and vulnerable.
Wow.
And I know, right, from 8 Mile. Anyway, I'm not condoning that movie, but it's a good movie. Point is, one or two things are going to happen. Either one, someone's going to reciprocate that and cause them to look internally. Mm-hmm. Or two, they're going to start to look internally and be like, yeah, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
And it's going to get uncomfortable and they're going to end up leaving. And I'd rather have that, but because at least I know I did everything I could to provide the opportunity for them. Whether you want to pick that up and start to work on yourself or not, that's up to you. I gave you the opportunity. I let you in, and that's why I didn't take advantage. That's why nobody's going to take advantage of me, because it was my choice to say that. It was my choice to give that information and to voice that and say, hey, here's my heart. And ultimately, that's what I had to do in our marriage. When I finally realized, look, I'm not being truly one, I had to fully cut open my heart and say, look, there's a lot of implications that could come from this, and there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of different things, and a whole lot that we're going to have to work through from this, but here's everything. Like, I got nothing else. I could lose everything in front of me, but this is what it is. I want to do life with you. I want to be one with you. And I left it all on the table, and I was completely vulnerable, and I was completely broken, and it was an unbelievable time in our life. But I don't know that I would trade it for anything, because that gave us a platform and a foundation to build trust and reliability and get rid of the shame and everything else that comes along with it, and say, no, we are going to do this. We are going to be full out and all in. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was me being vulnerable. But that's the environment I want to create, because that's what will happen. That's what, you're real. Hey, guess what? When you are real and when you are honest, guess what you're going to realize? Everybody else has problems.
Yes.
Everybody has struggles. The things that you think and the thoughts that go through your head, everybody struggles. Just people pretend like they don't exist. And it's just not healthy for them. And we've chosen to live a life where we say, hey, this exists. This is a problem. I'm dealing with this struggle or this shame. Anybody else? Like, I'm not okay with it. I'm not saying it's okay.
Right.
I'm not sticking my head in the sand and saying it is what it is. I'm saying, no, I'm going to work on it. Right? Recovering people, please. Like, listen to the language. It's very important. It's very intentional, because we are working to get better, and we do want to become more, but we're not going to stay where we are, and we're not going to pretend that things don't exist as well.
Right. We're not searching for other people that are struggling too, to be like, oh yeah, isn't it so hard?
Yeah.
No, it's like, okay, yeah, you have that struggle too. Okay, what can we do?
Yeah.
How can we be accountable to each other?
What are we going to learn? What's the thinking behind that? Why did we get here?
Yeah.
We've been here before. What's happening? What are we going to do different?
Mm-hmm. I love it. All right. Brene ends her book with a chapter on parenting, and we're not going to get into it now, but we did just find out today that she has a book, a whole
Yeah.
book dedicated to parenting.
I think she just came out with it, which is a shame. It's not a shame that she came out with the book. It's a shame we're not getting to parenting now, because some of the greatest takeaways really were from the last chapter of parenting.
Yeah. It was so
On when
good.
you start to relate, this is the only teaser I give, but when you start to relate the shame concept, so we talked about ourselves primarily, which is where you got to start.
Right.
But when you start to think about the implications of your kids
Mm.
and how you react and how you treat and how you respond, and the words that you use to them, you're a bad kid, or you're going to be in trouble, or different things like that, they're unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
And be really, really careful. We'll get into it in another podcast, but it wouldn't matter. Like, you got to start on yourself first. Like, you have to understand, look yourself in the mirror first, and you got to go through that with yourself, or else you're never going to change the way that you parent your kids.
Right. Very, very right.
You did a great job.
No, thank
I
you.
don't know how you did this, but you
did
were
a really
amazing.
good job, too. I'm passionate about
It was good. It came out.
vulnerability and conquering shame. Very passionate, because that's been a journey in my life. We did have a couple people share
Yes.
for sure stories.
2 people. We're just going to give away the book twice. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally fine.
2 people. Mom, Priscilla Petropoulos.
Hi, Mom.
We'll get you
Mom.
this book. It's an amazing book. You're going to love it. And thank you for the kind words on Facebook, too.
Yes, thank
because
you.
I haven't texted you back. I'm sorry. 2, did she say something about it? Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I knew
no,
it.
she didn't.
2, Amy. Amy shared it on her Instagram, so we're going to
Mm-hmm.
count that. So we're going to get it, which you might already have it, Amy, but we're going to make sure we get you that.
That's why we said we'll give it
copy
out
the-
twice.
Yes.
We know the one already has
Makes us look better than we are. Okay. Be real, be vulnerable, even though we're not. Just kidding.
it. No.
No, we are. I do want to get her that book. It is important. So thanks for following along.
Yeah. And so when we post this, if you give our post a heart it. And we're still going to pick another one, right?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're going to give away twice. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, or or share it too. Whatever.
Yeah, we'll give you an extra thumbs up.
Extra.
That means nothing,
Yeah.
but
A thumbs up means
it's
a
going
lot
to count.
me.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you for following along. I hope you enjoyed this. Is a longer one, but there's a lot in this book. And
Yeah.
if you haven't caught the grasp already, we think you really need to read it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.